Since we broke the news last night of the last combat brigade leaving Iraq, the story of MSNBC and NBC breaking that news has been getting almost as much attention as the news that we broke itself. That's both weird because it's really not about us, it's about the news. But I will admit that it's also nice because being here with these guys from NBC, the Iraqi and Arabic-speaking staffers here, the war zone engineers and cameramen and audio techs, these pros who know a lot more about what they're doing than I know about what I'm doing. I feel like the work that it takes to pull this off, to get here, to get the story, to work with and sometimes work around the military, to put yourself in the middle of all this, it's also a part of the story of this war. It's a part of how America learned the story, but it's also part of the way that the war unfolded. And in the case of NBC's chief foreign correspondent, my friend Richard Engel, in Richard's case, this part of the war, his story that is part of the war story, is a pretty good story. Watch this.
Welcome to sunny Baghdad. How are you?
I'm good. I think of this as Engelstan.
No, this is, well, I think of it too. You know, after all of these years, it is kind of surreal to be back here for this moment.
Well, when you were here before the invasion. You were here.
I'm an honorary local councilman of Baghdad.
Are you really?
Yeah, no kidding.
Who named you that?
I have a good friend who's he was on the local council. Now he's a member of the provincial council, and he made me an honorary member. That's how long I've been here.
How did you get into Iraq in the first place? Is it true that you snuck in?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I came in under dubious circumstances.
Okay.
I was given a human shield visa, which I had to buy under the corrupt regime of Saddam Hussein.
I remember this, that Americans and other people came from all over and said, well, as long as the Americans are going to be invading, let's bring in civilians to be shields.
A human shield. So the idea was, I got this visa, I was supposed to come in and say, chain myself to a power plant and say, don't bomb, you know, the Americans are here, you know, love and peace. And I said, you know, that's exactly what I want to do. And you still had to pay to get this privilege.
How much did you have to pay?
A few $100s.
Okay.
And I had to buy, you know, a little bit of bribes here and there, you know, little gifts, I should call them.
And you'd been living in Egypt?
I was living in Egypt. I've been living in the region already at the time, and this is in 2002, for about seven and a half years.
Okay.
So the invasion was about to begin. I'd been living in the region for quite some time. I spoke Arabic, and I thought, this is the way I've got to go. This is going to be the game-changing story. So I got this human shield visa, and then I didn't chain myself to a power plant or anything for the love of Saddam. I got into this country and then disappeared.
Okay.
And this was a few months before the invasion, then I just stayed. Yeah. So I stayed in Baghdad. I was living in people's houses. People just kind of protected me and gave me shelter. And then I stayed in Iraq for the next 5.5, 6 years.
Wow. And you started working as a freelancer?
I was working for everybody. I was working for BBC, I was working for ABC, and freelancing, and then started working for NBC full-time, pretty much immediately following the fall of Baghdad.
But you were here throughout for the first 5, 6 years of the war?
Yes. I took little breaks, but straight. I was here 10, 11 months a year.
So when thinking now, in August 2010, this is ending. I mean, Operation Iraqi Freedom ends now. And did you have any idea this is the way that it would end?
It's ending with a little bit of a whisper.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember back, the huge media coverage, there were cameras everywhere. There were hundreds of embeds. Mm-hmm. Well, look at the media circus now. Yeah. This is it. There's nobody here. I mean, we're on a big base. When the war began, there were cameras and embeds and hundreds of reporters fighting with each other to be part of this. Mm-hmm. I'm really glad you came, and I'm glad we're covering it, but there's nobody here.
Yeah.
So it's ending so quietly. So I didn't expect that it would end like that.